It's as Israeli forces step up strikes on Lebanon too. Panic in the capital Beirut as people there are warned to leave. We'll hear the first government-chartered evacuation flight finally lands, but why only three-quarters full?
It was a bit of a shambles on the night when we thought we were going to get on the flight and then sort of trapped on buses and had to go back, but that's all right for now.
We'll have more on that, plus the latest on 4 people arrested in London accused of spying for Iran. Also this lunchtime. Life in jail for a man who murdered a woman and her 3 children by setting fire to their house in Bradford. And one girl and her dog, the 11-year-old, returning to Crufts after battling cancer.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. The US Defense Secretary says America's strikes on Iran are about to surge dramatically as the war in the Middle East enters its 7th day. Israel's IDF has released footage of it destroying the regime's command bunker in Tehran. And this is Beirut's skyline in Lebanon this lunchtime as Israeli forces say they have begun a broad-scale wave of strikes on the city. They say they are targeting Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. It comes after a massive evacuation order was issued for southern Lebanon and parts of Beirut, while Iranian drones and missiles have been intercepted above Tel Aviv in Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Bahrain. Well, here 4 people have been arrested on suspicion of spying for Iran. More on that later. But first, Layla Hayes as we approach a week of war.
Iranian missiles intercepted in the night sky over Tel Aviv. Israeli defences managing to hold off the threat, but the attack sparked a wave of explosions across the city. Overnight, Israel also intensified its strikes on Iran, hitting the centre of the capital, Tehran. By day, the damage was clear, with a number of residential buildings destroyed. The southern city of Shiraz was also hit, with these pictures showing aid workers helping the injured. This morning, 50 Israeli jets struck an underground bunker built for Iran's supreme leader in the heart of Tehran. But Iran is hitting back, striking this Kuwaiti airbase, further escalating tensions across the region. And overnight, Israel launched massive strikes against Lebanon. The IDF later released pictures showing what it says are strikes on a Hezbollah command centre. Residents have been told to leave southern Beirut, but many have nowhere to go. Every time they displace us, this man says, every time there is war, we rise again and become stronger. What they're doing is pointless. The US released these pictures of an Iranian drone carrier being hit and set on fire. They say their mission is to sink the entire Iranian navy.
Their navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force, they have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone.
Time to find out.
But the White House has been criticised for releasing footage of its war operation alongside clips from the video game Call of Duty. It says in terms of attacking Iran, there is more to come.
More bomber pulses more frequently. The amount of firepower over Iran and over Tehran is about to surge dramatically.
The UK has announced it's sending 4 extra Typhoon jets to the region, as well as helicopters to Cyprus. But the Royal Navy's destroyer won't arrive until next week. As the war enters its 7th day, there is little sign of the conflict ending. Layla Hayes, ITV News.
Royal Air Force jets could legally strike Iranian missile sites being used to attack British interests in the Middle East. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister. The UK has already given the US permission to use British bases to carry out defensive strikes against Iran. Our political correspondent Harry Horton is in Westminster this lunchtime. Harry, is this a shift in tone from the government then?
Well, if it were to happen, it would certainly mark an escalation in terms of the UK's involvement in this conflict. So far, we've seen British jets shoot down Iranian drones, and we've also seen over the weekend the Prime Minister give permission for the United States to use British air bases to launch defensive attacks on the Iranian regime. And he was asked this morning, the Deputy Prime Minister, whether that also means it's legal for British jets to use British bases for similar defensive operations against Iranian targets. And David Lammy seemed to suggest it would be.
I think it's important, whenever you're a politician, to allow those on the ground facing fire to make those assessments, not to give a running commentary standing here in London. We have given them the broad permission. They know they have a legal basis to act, and I have full confidence that they will do that to protect lives over the coming days and weeks.
Yeah. And Harry, news today of 4 people arrested by police in London on suspicion of spying for Iran. Is that something we now need to be concerned about?
Well, the government has long highlighted the threat that Iran poses to British nationals on British soil. This morning, the Met Police said it had arrested 1 Iranian and 3 dual British-Iranian nationals on suspicion of assisting a foreign intelligence service, namely that of Iran. And the police said their investigation related to suspected surveillance of locations and individuals linked to the Jewish community in the London area. Police have said that they understand public concern around this, and the Home Secretary has said the UK's police and security services are world leading and would take any action to counter any threat to the UK.
All right, Harry in Westminster, thank you very much. Well, the first government-chartered flight bringing British citizens back from the Middle East landed at London Stansted Airport in the early hours of this morning. But thousands of British citizens are still stuck in the Gulf region. The Foreign Office has set up a crisis centre to help get people back home safely. Philip Syme is there and sent this.
Yes, welcome to what the Foreign Office calls its crisis centre. And indeed, what they are facing here today is nothing short of a crisis. It is in this room here in the basement of the building where hundreds of staff have been working round the clock to try and bring back Brits who are stranded in the Middle East. And you can see on big screens at the end of the room there, they are monitoring flight traffic across the region. And there is a sense of relief here today because the first government-chartered flight landed at Stansted at around 1 a.m. and there was relief on that flight too for the passengers who've had to endure not just the threat of Iranian missiles but also a 24-hour delay to their flight taking off.
It was a bit of a shambles on the night when we thought we were going to get on a flight and then sort of trapped on buses. Had to go back, but that's all right for now. I'm sure everyone else agrees we all had to be back.
The whole experience lasted about 24 hours. We were right under the missiles and stuff, so for the sake of my children, we're like, we're just going to come back. So yeah, so we just ended up doing that because you could hear like the windows shudder and like things. It was quite a scary time.
Now, those are just 2 of the 160,000 Brits who have registered their presence in the region with the UK government and may need help coming back. A second charter flight is due to depart later today, and a number of commercial flights are now operating. A string of them landed in the UK this morning, but staff here know the task ahead of them is huge.
Philip Syme reporting there. Well, almost a week into the war and the conflict is gathering momentum. Our international editor Emma Murphy is in Erbil in Iraq. And Emma, what can we expect from the coming days?
Well, I wish I could offer some kind of positive sense as to what could be ahead, but it doesn't feel like that at the moment. Overnight, Iran had, particularly Tehran, had its most continual bombardment, and the warnings from the Americans are that there is more to come and that they still have an awful lot more that they wish to unleash on the Iranian soil. In terms of the situation across the region, they are continuing to see across the Gulf multiple drones and missiles. They are taking them down in large part, but some are still getting through. And of course, that is having a huge impact on oil production, because a great number of the oil refineries and oil production centres have been hit over the past few days. What's notable is that that has prompted a very significant response over the last 24 hours from those who are involved with business in the Middle East and the Gulf. One of the most richest men in Dubai yesterday sent out a message to President Trump demanding to know who gave him the right to put the Gulf in harm's way and do the damage that he was doing to the entire region. We've also heard from the Qatari foreign minister speaking to the Financial Times this morning, warning that this war could collapse global economies, such as the impact on the oil production. And I think that is something that could start to really resonate with the US administration. Of course, Donald Trump is a man who listens to money. So I think it gives a sense of just how alarmed the entire region is, and how the business community and the really moneyed people in that community are now unwilling to sit quietly. They are standing up and they're demanding to be heard. We've also had information out of Tehran this morning from the Iranian president saying that they are open to mediation. Now, I know from speaking to sources across the region over the last few days, there is a ferocious attempt underway to try and find some kind of common ground, to try and bring this to an end. There's an awful lot of effort, I have to say, at this point. There isn't an awful lot of hope.
All right, Emma, in northern Iraq there, thank you very much. We will, of course, be covering all the developments of the conflict on our website. That's itv.com/news, and, of course, on ITVX. Still ahead this lunchtime, the 11-year-old wowing the crowds at Crufts after battling cancer. But first, a man who killed his former partner's sister and her 3 children by setting fire to their house has been sentenced to life in prison. Prosecutors said 40-year-old Sharaz Ali was motivated by revenge after his partner ended their relationship. Jonathan Brown is at Doncaster Crown Court this lunchtime. Jonathan, what happened in court?
Well, this was an incredibly emotional hearing. I was sat in the public gallery alongside members of the victim's family. Most were in tears. Even the court's custody officer, who was sat in the dock next to the defendants, appeared to be crying. This was as statements were read out about the impacts of the deaths of Bryony Gowith and her 3 children, Dennisty, Oscar and Aubrey, in a fire at their home in Bradford in August 2024. The intended target of that attack was Bryony's sister Antonia, who'd recently broken up with a man called Sharaz Ali. Today, Ali and his accomplice Caleb Sunderland were jailed for life. Ali had earlier been found guilty of 4 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder, while Sunderland was convicted of 4 counts of manslaughter. And in the last few minutes, Antonia had this to say outside court.
Today, the judge sentenced the monster who killed our beautiful family, Bryony and her 3 children, Dennisty, Oscar and Aubrey. But no sentence, no matter how long, can ever heal the pain they caused. No sentence can bring back their laughter, their hugs, their voices, their love. No sentence can bring back 4 hearts that should still be beating.
Well, the court heard how Ali had sent a string of threatening messages to Antonia in the wake of their breakup. He then recruited Sunderland, who travelled with him to Bryony's home where Antonia was staying. They were then seen on a doorbell camera, kicking the door in before Ali poured petrol around the home. But as Antonia tried to lure him outside, he then started the fire, setting himself alight and killing Bryony and her 3 children. He sustained 59% burns to his body. Today, he was given a whole life sentence for the murders. Sunderland was given a life sentence, and he'll serve a minimum term of 18 years.
All right, Jonathan at Doncaster Crown Court there, thank you. Victims of a cancer-linked pregnancy drug are meeting in their largest numbers to date in Birmingham today. The drug, known as DES, was a synthetic hormone prescribed to hundreds of thousands of women between the late 1930s and 1980s. It was used to prevent miscarriage until it was linked to cancers and infertility in the daughters of those who took it. Well, Ben Chapman is at that meeting in Birmingham with 2 women who have been affected. Ben.
Yes, I'm joined by Susie and her mum Jennifer. Now, Susie, you've suffered the effects from this drug after your mum was prescribed it when she was pregnant with you. What sort of impact has it had on your life?
Well, it's had a huge impact. I had my first surgery when I was in my early teens, and from being in my mid-20s, I've had about 20 or 30 surgeries and investigative procedures. And it's not just the physical pain, it's the emotional pain. I've got it hanging over my life all the time. You know, am I going to develop cancer at any time? I've had to have time away from my family, I've had to have time off work, and it's just ongoing. I'll have to have screening for the rest of my life.
And how has it felt to know that all of this links back to something your mum was prescribed when she was pregnant with you?
It's really frustrating. I mean, she should never have been prescribed it. She took it in good faith.
Jennifer, what were you told back in 1970?
Well, I questioned it very closely because of the thalidomide that had happened in the 1950s. I wasn't happy about taking anything, but I was assured it had been taken for 30 years all over the world without any problems, and it was a great success.
And it was prescribed to you to prevent miscarriage?
Yes. I'd already miscarried the year before. It didn't stop me miscarrying because I lost the baby halfway through the pregnancy. But again, I threatened to miscarry with Susie, and it was prescribed again. Again, I questioned it very closely.
What has it been like watching your daughter suffering all these years as a result of it?
Very distressing. I mean, I feel guilty taking it because ultimately I'm responsible because I took it, and it's not good. It's not good.
And we're learning now that the size of this and the number of people that it's affected. There are around 40 people here today, but this campaign group I know has grown to about 500 people. What has it been like today, and why is it important today to meet others?
Well, it's fantastic to meet others because it's a very lonely journey. You think you're the only one that's had this. And I think there's going to be strength in numbers. I mean, there were about 300,000 women that were prescribed DES to prevent miscarriage. So there's going to be a lot more people out there. But it's interesting to hear the stories, and hopefully, now we're all got together, we can finally do something about this.
You've had an apology, haven't you, from the Health Secretary? Yes. I know that's not enough for you, though. What more do you think needs to happen?
Well, I think one of the most important things is that there's a lot of disparity between the medical support we get. So I think that there needs to be better education for medical professionals. There needs to be improved screening and pathways. And most importantly, there needs to be a public inquiry. And I think the main reason for this is so that it doesn't happen again. It's a national scandal.
Susie, Jennifer, thank you very much. We have received a statement from the Department of Health. The spokesperson said to us today that the government has gripped this issue by alerting cancer clinicians to the impact of DES and the NHS screening guidance. But for the campaigners here, they are very clear that much more needs to be done. There needs to be much more support as more and more victims of this come forward.
Ben, thank you. And to Susie and Jennifer, thank you as well. Police looking into claims surrounding Peter Mandelson have released him from bail conditions, but he remains under investigation. The former US ambassador was arrested late last month at his London home on suspicion of misconduct in public office. It followed the discovery of emails released within the Epstein files, where Lord Mandelson has denied any wrongdoing. And stamp prices are set to rise again next month, despite repeated failures by Royal Mail to meet its delivery targets and amid growing concerns over the performance of the service. First-class stamps will now cost £1.80. And finally, this lunchtime, when Freya Harris first showed her dog Echo at Crufts, she was getting treatment for a rare form of cancer. That was in 2023. This week, after her having her kidney removed, lung surgery, chemotherapy and radiotherapy, she returned to the world-famous contest to wow the crowds again. And she's only 11. Well, Amy Lewis caught up with Freya, her mum Gemma, and of course, Echo.
Well, Freya was given Echo just a few months after her diagnosis, and their relationship ever since has just grown and grown. I'm pleased to say that they join me now. Thank you for this, Freya. Just tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I was diagnosed with womb cancer when I was 7, and it made a really big impact on my life. But I got Echo to help with that, and now she does all sorts of things with me that lots of people wouldn't be able to do, like going to crafts.
Tell us a little bit about crafts, because you were there this week and you're going to be back there at the weekend, aren't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't place at crafts yesterday, but I feel like she did really well. And I'm happy to be leaving with my best dog.
Tell us a little bit about how she has changed your life.
So Echo does this thing called pressure, which is where she lays on your legs to get the pain away. And she just really helps, like, she's there to talk to, she's there to pretty much do anything to that person could do.
So each time that you feel like you're in pain, she recognises that and comes and supports you. How much of a friend has she been to you?
She is the most loyal friend I've ever had. She's my best friend, and there's nothing that could replace Echo.
I mean, if you just take a look at Echo now, I mean, she is a very, very special, very beautiful dog, isn't she? She's now 3 years old. Obviously, you've been at crafts now, and just finally, like, having, and I know you're going to be back there on Sunday, but what's it like walking out with her?
Just knowing she did me proud is enough to have her as a winner for me.
Thank you so much for joining us and for talking about your story. And as I mentioned, now on Sunday, they're both going to be back at crafts at the Young Kennel Club.
Freya and Echo there will be wowing the crowds once again. And that is all from us for now. Charlene is here with the evening news at 6:30, and there is some more of the day's news, including the war in the Middle East, on our website, itv.com/news. But for now, from everyone on Lunchtime, bye-bye.